Okay, good evening. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being patient. I'm a big proponent of starting meetings on time, and I apologize that that did not happen today. Today is Tuesday, April 2nd, 2024, and this is the Cottonwood Heights City Council business meeting. I have asked our city manager, Tim Tingy, if he would get us, or if he would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand and repeat after me the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Tim. So tonight, we have a special recognition regarding an award that was recently given to volunteers in our city. We have with us this evening from the Utah Recreation and Parks Association, let's see, Leanne Powell is here. Hi, Leanne. And so actually what we're going to do is I'm going to invite you up to the podium, and why don't you tell us, I will not steal your thunder. Why don't you tell us why you're here and what we're going to do?
All right, I would be happy to. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for giving us just a few moments to recognize some of your rock stars in your community. So as you mentioned, my name is Leanne Powell. I'm the Executive Director of the Utah Recreation and Parks Association. So it's a nonprofit association that represents about 1,800 parks and recreation professionals throughout the state. So the Special Service District, all the employees at the Special Service District are members of the association. Sometimes your special events folks through your city are members of the association. And so every March we have a big conference down in St. George. Several of the people in this room were down there recently. And leading up to that conference, we take award nominations. So we have a number of different categories where we take nominations, and then we get all of our past presidents together in a room, and they get to select the winners of all the awards. And then I get the pleasure of coming out to the communities. I have the best job because I get to come to all the communities and kind of represent those awards and make sure that community members and councils and boards understand some of the great work that's happening right in their own communities. So that's why I'm here tonight, is to do an award, and this award is for outstanding program. And as many of you are aware, you have a Volunteers in the Park VIP program that started with the brainchild of Rana. Yes. You know, it's really interesting, and Patty Hansen can speak to this a little bit, but we get to be in the room with all of the past presidents because she's one of them, and like hear the talk about YA program. You know, in Parks and Recreation, we do programs, right? That's one of the things we do, and we'll get 15 or 20 nominations for outstanding program. So then the question is, why would a program like Volunteers in the Park maybe raised to the level of being the outstanding program in our state? And I think there's a number of things we look at, but probably one of the most important things is in Parks and Recreation, we're all about open space and trails and parks and programming. Like, imagine for a minute if we didn't have our parks and our trails and all their great programs and a recreation center and outdoor pools and things for our community to do and come together in special events. It's kind of hard to imagine, because really that is the heart and soul of the communities. That's what develops communities. And I think one of the things we look at with this Volunteers in the Park program is, one, it was the brainchild of a volunteer in your community that came in and said, hey, we need to preserve these parks. We need to make them great spaces for our community to come together. And we have to be stewards of our parks and our open spaces. And if we don't teach our next generation to love parks, we're not going to have them to love, right? So I think, one, just looking at kind of the inspiration behind this program. And then we all know that sometimes we have these great ideas, and it's really hard to get cities and counties and special service districts and volunteers and community members all on the same page working together to make a program come to actuality. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that set this program ahead of a lot of others. was the fact that it was an inspiration, it was an idea, and then everybody came together, and you've got what, over 130 volunteers? 130 volunteers that make this program in your community absolutely awesome. So that was probably the thing that really kind of put this over the top, and then just the ability to work across different generations and with different programs in the city and the special service district, and Salt Lake County plays a role, and bringing everybody to the table and making a program actually work and function. And it's the type of program that will just continue to grow and prosper and preserve your parks and make them awesome for your community. So on behalf of our 1,800 Parks and Recreation professionals that are part of URPA, it's our honor to present this outstanding program to your Volunteers in the Parks VIP program for 2024.
So Leanne, while they are coming up, could I also add that one of the people that I know Rana would recognize that played an important part of this was a member of our PTOS committee, Doug Peterson. And so I want to recognize that Doug Peterson played a big part in the program being put together, and then for it, applying for the support as well. So thank you. So I want to come down and take a picture with you all. Is that okay? No.
All want t-shirts. Those t-shirts are.
You have to work really hard to get that t-shirt. You have to be a volunteer.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Oh, Andrew, absolutely.
Yeah, Andrew.
He does
all the work.
He does all the work. Yeah.
Hey, you get in the middle. You get over there by Rona.
You're more important than me.
Who's getting the picture?
Big cow to make it with any photos.
Right.
Yeah.
That is a good question. Where will that come from?
Thank you. Rona, don't leave.
That's awesome. Get in there. That's awesome.
How about one more round of applause? Is that okay? So like I said, a lot of the stuff that the council gets to do isn't that much fun, but that is a fun process for us to be able to honor great people, volunteer their time, make our city great. Okay, so item 4.0 on our agenda is a citizen comment period. It's a time for our residents to address the council concerning whatever matters they desire. Each speaker will have 3 minutes. If the buzzer goes off, you'll have 4 or 5 seconds before I'll cut you off to finish up your statement. When making comments, we request that you speak into the microphone and that you state your name so that your name and comments can be recorded. And we ask that everyone to be respectful and to listen to those who are speaking. So the first comment card I have is for Rick Stevenson.
Thank you, Mayor. I represent the Canyon Creek group of homeowners, so I'd request 5 minutes if I may for that group. The first comment I have is just to thank the council, Chief Riley, Chief Pilgrim, for the work that you've done for us to keep the neighborhood, the tone of the neighborhood, the safety of the neighborhood intact as we grow. That's increasingly a difficult position. I do want to mention some of the concerns that our group has about future growth. The rumors about developers wanting to develop, particularly of concern to us as people who live along Big Cottonwood Canyon Drive. And so the developers, when we bought our home 5 years to the day, when we moved in 5 years to the day today, Prior to that, I called the planning department and said, what is the zoning here? And I was told 15 lots north of the creek, 10 on the circle where we live. And I thought, well, that's very reasonable, probably sustainable for the road, for the infrastructure that we have. Not saying I based the move in on that, but it was definitely a consideration coming from an area that promised low density, but didn't deliver. My concern is the number we've heard is 320 units behind the creek from where we live. Two factors are involved there. The riparian setback that this group voted on, that would have to be to accommodate the number of housing there. That would have to be changed, as would the density and the height. So I would urge you, as these rumors come up, and I think they're pretty substantiated, that there are developers out there that would love to develop that land. Your study, Hell's Engineering, cites roughly 7 cars per day per unit more. 7 cars per day. I think the average is 1.78 cars per unit, but actual trips per day, according to Hales, this study I think you commissioned is 7. One study I read put it a little higher. It said 9 cars per day. So as these topics come up and the Planning Commission presents them to your group, I would ask that you consider the real impact on that. And if you think Big Cottonwood Canyon Road is going to be able to, let's say 320 is the number I heard. So 320 times 9 is horrendous. It's 2880 extra trips per day. Your study is at 2240 extra trips per day. So a good way to avoid city councils are always worried about being sued. You know, if a developer can't get an exception he wants or she wants, there's a suit involved. Well, I'd just like to remind you that there's a possible suit involved should you acquiesce to what the builders want. And that is Salt Lake County Flood Control, Army Corps of Engineers, and other possible suits coming up. So designating Big Cottonwood Canyon Road as a historical road, I think would alleviate a lot of that. And so I proactively wanted to present that to the council, to the mayor, to the planners, that might be legally a good way to kind of hedge that. Thanks.
Thank you, Rick. Appreciate that. The next comment card I have is for Nancy Hardy. Hi.
Hi, Mayor, City Council members. I just have a couple little things. One thing I wanted to mention, it's a UDOT thing, is the sticker program. And I was wondering if you know if it works or not. And I didn't know if Cottonwood Heights contributes money to that program. Because I'm
Are you
not.
talking for tread on your tire? Tractor?
Yes, because you get the sticker on your car and that's supposed to help with traffic and, you know, who goes up the canyon. So I have a sticker. I've had one every year and ski a lot. I've not once been stopped to look at anything. So I just thought if the funds, if Cottonwood Heights puts funds toward that, if maybe that money could be used for a better use, maybe more buses or private buses, transportation up the canyon. And then also, I think that maybe the seating arrangement of the city council members could be integrated a little bit better. Just my thought on that, on where everybody sits up there. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next comment card I have is for Runar Bowman.
Good evening, Mayor. My name is Runer Bowman. I reside in District 3. I just wanted to comment on tonight's work session. There were some things discussed in that session. First of all, the comment about, or the presentation from the speaker about the rec center in particular. And I moved to this Cottonwood Heights partly because of that rec center. I use it a lot. I'm a pass holder for years, and it's really been important in my life and my wife's life. So we really cherish that facility. I have noticed in the lately it's been getting very, very crowded. There's more people signing up for it for whatever reason, and that's okay. I understand that. The thing is that the building's starting to fall apart. I mean, it's old. And the pools, I'm a big swimmer. The pools are the boilers are breaking down. There's things going on that they're constantly shutting these pools down. And that's a function of age. I get it. I guess my concern is that I guess we have some tax money that would be necessary to restore that building or replace it, in which case we need to have some serious funding available when that time comes. And I would just hope that the council would foresee that and plan accordingly, because that we can't afford to lose that facility. The other thing I wanted to quickly mention was the resolution 2024-25 that's going to be voted on tonight, apparently. And it's this transportation optional transportation enhancement tax. And I guess the resolution is to encourage the county to tax us, which I find kind of interesting. You know, so, and again, just funding for transportation doesn't say anything about what it's for specifically. So we're going to be voting ourselves a tax because we all like to pay taxes, I'm sure. So I find it really kind of interesting that we're, you know, when it was discovered that we'd be paying this tax, there was no opposition. No one said, oh, that's a bad idea. It's like, oh, okay, well, we'll just pay the tax. So obviously I'm not happy about that idea. You know, if we could justify it in the sense that, well, we're going to fix 2300 down to Fort Union, which is full of potholes right now, and they're constantly patching it, and it's very rough. If they could fix that, okay, I get it. But we need more revenue, obviously, because we're spending a lot of money. And I find it interesting that two members of the council are ignoring a windfall in tax revenue, property tax revenue, in the form of the CWH property. We take them on, we get that property tax revenue, which is sorely needed. And it's basically it's free money because the road is private. We have very minimal input costs. So it's a win-win for us. It's a win for them. I find it a no-brainer that we should approve that CWH and annexation. And I would hope the council would understand that and agree with that point of view. Thank you.
Thank you, Runer. The next card I have is for Hal Ford. Hey, Hal.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to speak before the group here. And my wife and I grew up in Sugar House. My wife grew up in Holiday. And as residents of that particular community, as we bought a house there and decided that we wanted to get a bigger house for our family, we moved out here. And in 1978, we acquired property and built our home here, raised 4 children here. The remark that I want to make, I hope that you listen to this because I think it's really impactful on everybody's future here, is that my wife and I drove back into Sugar House a week ago, and driving along 11th East, Sugar House doesn't have any resemblance of what it used to be. And the high rise and the high density housing, the amount of traffic there, it's just bedlam. And we're highly concerned about the changes that we've seen here over the last 46 years. And growth is inevitable. But in order for it to be sustainable, it has to be well planned and managed. We've noticed that there are some things that once they get built, they can't ever get torn down. A good example of that is the pedestrian crossing on Creek Road between the Mormon Church and the Catholic Church that serves no purpose. Nobody, I think I might see 1 or 2 people in a year use that because it isn't convenient to the Catholics or the Mormons, and nobody hardly ever parks on the north side of that street anyway, or on the south side, excuse me. So, you know, I thought, wouldn't it be nice if the council said we ought to tear that out? And if we want to put in speed bumps, that's fine. But when you hear snow plows hitting that structure in the middle of the winter, and I know we've had several accidents, that's just an example that I hope as we look at this high density housing that's being promoted, you know, contractors are interested in money and money only. Anybody that is building those buildings doesn't plan on living here in Cottonwood Heights. Appreciate your time. I hope that you give a lot of thought to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Hal. Okay, the last comment card I have is for Randy Long.
No, we do have one hand up online.
Two. Hi, Randy.
Yes, my name is Randy Long, and I'm speaking in favor of the Bonneville Shoreline Trail and also in favor of open space. We need more open space badly. There's several places in the Salt Lake Valley now where open space is already badly fragmented. We don't want Cottonwood Heights to join that situation. So again, we need more open space. Hillside Plaza should be mostly open space if it can be. Well, even the Dover Hill area should be. And again, we need the Bonneville Shoreline Trail finished as soon as possible. I know it's pretty much finished in Ferguson Canyon now, and it's well, I understand the trail up there is pretty much complete, whatever. And also, I've understood there are some problems with Deaf Smith Canyon, but hopefully those be overcome before very long at all too. And we may possibly need another access south of there because that's probably, I think it's 2 miles from Deaf Smith to Little Cottonwood Canyon. At least it is on Wasatch Boulevard anyway. And just south of Deaf Smith Canyon, there's an old abandoned Jeep road that went straight up the mountain to some old mines high on the mountain. And just north of there, there's also an orographic route that too goes straight up the mountain to Houndstooth and possibly beyond that. We need those protected, or as much as they can be. We need that orographic route, and well, again, the Jeep road has been abandoned, and hopefully it stays that way. We need to stay abandoned. And so therefore that would not be a good access point for the BST. But possibly a point south there would be like they're bending the North Cottonwood Canyon Road, where it bends up toward the canyon. That might be a good place for it. Good place for an access. So again, we need that trail. And again, we need more open space. Thank you.
Thanks, Randy. So we're gonna go to first Amir Rosenfeld. Why don't you make them live, Matt? Hi, Amir. Can you hear us?
I can hear you just fine. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. I would like to talk about American culture. American culture is centered around niggers. They have holidays for niggers. They have killed hundreds of thousands of white men to free niggers. They listen to nigger music.
Okay. We are gonna move on to Little.
Alvin, if you can unmute.
Hi, Alvin. Can you hear us? You need to unmute, Alvin. Okay, so we'll move on to Mordecai. Why don't you see if you can make Mordecai?
Ah, there we are. There's the unmute button. Can you hear me, Council?
Yes.
Boy, Gavelt, the unmute button was hidden beneath some stuff there. Anyway, Mordecai Feltzbaum here. As you are probably aware, my people have been kicked out of 109 nations because we have been accused of poisoning the well, coin clipping, having sex with children, lending money at obscene interest, monopolizing the media, education, health, and legal systems, and eating foreskins. And I am so sick of being accused of these crimes. Jew after Jew after Jew has to deal with this hate speech. And I would like this council.
Okay, we're gonna shut down the public comment at this point. So yeah. Go ahead, Mordecai.
Ah, okay. You muted me there. I know I'm speaking about some, controversial stuff here, but I mean, we are the chosen people, and I think you should increase the hate speech laws and throw all the goyim in jail because all the non-Jews are criminals. They're animals. When a Jew murders a non-Jew, there will be no death penalty. A man who engaged in intercourse with a girl less than 3 years of age has done nothing wrong. Jews must destroy the books of the Christians, the New Testament. The non-Jews are not humans, they are beasts. When the Messiah comes, every Jew will have 2,800 slaves. Jesus is in hell being boiled in hot excrement. Jews may use lies, subterfuges, to circumvent the non-Jews. What a Jew steals from a non-Jew, he may keep. If a non-Jew hits a Jew, he must be killed. The souls of non-Jews come from impure spirits and are called pigs. Extermination of the Christians is a necessary sacrifice. Jews must always try to deceive Christians. So I think you need to start filling up the prisons with goyim.
Okay, we're going to move on now. So we're going to close the citizen comment period and we're going to move to item 5.0, which is a public comment period for a zoning text amendment. So we have our Community and Economic Development Director, Mike Johnson, on the phone. We've discussed zoning text amendments for the last couple of meetings, and we're going to have Mike just give us a real quick background before we open the public comment on this item.
Mayor, can you hear me okay?
Yes, thanks, Mike.
Perfect. This was presented in a work session a couple meetings ago. This is just a routine cleanup of various provisions in the zoning ordinance and elsewhere in the city code. Every so often we run across ordinances or provisions that are unclear, so we clarify them. We do these about quarterly at this point. The only thing that was discussed of substance at the last work session were some provisions on dog boarding and pet boarding, specifically those done in homes. We have, at the request of the council, removed the home pet boarding recommendations from what's in front of you for consideration tonight in order to discuss home businesses in general a little further. Everything else is very, I'd call it kind of technical adjustments, cleanup, language relating to development bonds that is more compliant with state code than our ordinance, which was a little outdated. So I'm happy to answer any questions or walk through those, but I will turn it back to you and follow your direction on that.
Great, thank you, Mike. Any, so at this time, I will open the public comment period. I don't currently have any, comment cards for this specific item. Not seeing anybody that wants to comment, I will, go ahead and close the public comment period on this item. Item 6.0 on our agenda is a public hearing, based on a proposed budget amendment to our 2023-2024 fiscal year. So I'm going to invite our fiscal, administrative and fiscal services director, Scott Georges, up to give us a little bit of background on this budget amendment.
Okay. So just to review through the adjustments, most of the adjustments in the general fund are revenue neutral. In other words, there's revenue offsetting the expense requested. So item number one is when the police do a CERT training, there's some fees that come in to buy a little kit that goes with that. And this is actually from about 3 different trainings that have gone on over time. We're recognizing that revenue now for $1,729 of a new expense and new revenue. Item number 2 is a police DUI overtime reimbursement from the Utah Division of Public Safety for a total of $6,694 for 2 different reimbursements. New revenue and new expense. Number 3 is a police bulletproof vest grant, revenue recognition, and adding those related expenses for $2,500. Item number 4 is court restitution to offset various costs that are that impact the police department for $450. Again, both revenue and expense. Item number 5 is recognizing the revenue received on the sale of some exercise equipment that was approved a little while ago. We received $2,000 and the police department would like to utilize that money to pay for some ongoing operational needs. Item number 6 is Utah High School hockey game overtime reimbursement for $850. Item number 7 is police evidence auction proceeds, recognizing the $4,043 of revenue and requesting that to be utilized in new expenditures. Item number 8 is the State of Utah Police Department of Internal Affairs software grant. So we've received the $10,000 of revenue. Now, one note on the expense on this, even though it's budgeted in this year, there's a high likelihood that it will carry over beyond the end of June, and we'll come back and do a budget adjustment if that really does occur in our next fiscal year, once we confirm whether that's going to happen or not. Item number 9 is to have a consultant help with the write-up of the SS4A grant, as well as a couple other peripheral items with other grants with that. And that's $30,000. There's no revenue offset for that. So total in the general fund, it's $58,266 of new expense and $28,266 of new revenues. Moving to the capital projects fund, the Public Works building, back in May of 2023, when we had kind of reviewed through things, we kind of knew we would need a little extra money in order to finish that. The current projected project cost for that is $8,729,498. We currently have revenues of $7,500,000 of our bond that we got, $1,029,498 in state and local fiscal recovery funds that we transferred over from the general fund. So we're a little bit short. We need about $200,000 to do that. In our capital projects fund, primarily from interest in prior years, we have $337,000 of funds available, and we're recommending that we fund the $200,000 needed out of the fund balance that exists in our capital projects fund. So that would be an increase of $200,000 that would help us to pay and finish that building here that will be finished pretty much imminently right now. We'll have a few bills that will still straggle in over the next month or two. Item number 2 is we have and currently have been utilizing a 2018 Caterpillar 910M loader. We've been paying about $16,000 a year for this, the use of this, and we would like to purchase it outright
for the sum of 47,290. Again, we would recommend that that come out of that $337,000 fund balance that we have in our capital projects fund. So that would be a total of $247,000 out of our capital projects fund to fund those two items. In the stormwater fund, we have the Supernal Way project that we need to do some engineering and design for some emergency repairs. We believe we'll need about $100,000 prior to June 30th. There remains about $500,000 that would be needed, but that would be needed after July 1st. So that would be that portion would be funded out of next year's budget allotment. And then item number 2 is a sump pump at 7200 South. It's a replacement or and some upgrades and repairs that are needed. That can be finished before June 30th, and that's a $60,000 impact. And these items here total $160,000, and we have always remained kept in our fund balance about $500,000 for these types of emergency type repairs, so that we can do those. And then in our next budget year, we would just replenish that and allow the fund balance to grow back up to about $500,000, so that we have that for any future emergencies that may come up. And that's what we have.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate that. So I'm going to officially open up the public hearing, and if invite anybody up that wanted to comment on this proposed budget amendment. Come on up, Bernard.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have a lot of information on what I just saw up there, but I did notice that SS4 grant application, I think it was described as, and I believe that's for funding, like grant money to fund roadway maintenance and construction and other things. I suppose it related to transportation. Just kind of curious if that money, we're going to spend 30 grand for a grant writing specialist. And then I guess there'll be more money spent in the future for whatever projects we deem we want to spend that grant money that we receive. I guess we'd want to be spending additional money there. I'd like to be curious, will the next budget year, will we be talking about this future expenditures that we're trying to qualify for? And I don't know, you can't answer the question, but I'd just be curious if we're going to be transparent on how we're going to spend this grant money, because we're already putting out $30,000 for a grant writing, firm to do the job for us in that regard. Just kind of curious where we're going with all these expenditures, and are we going to be spending a lot more on roadways than we can afford? Thank you.
Thank you, Runar. And I'm happy to comment, and you can add something, Tim, if you'd like to. This money is going to request the funds that are available to cities from the infrastructure bill that was passed a couple of years ago federally. And so some of that work that we've actually would apply for through the grant is actually 2300 East that you talked about that needs some work. Bengal Boulevard and a big portion of Bengal Boulevard. So important roadways that do need to be maintained and taken care of. But I appreciate the question. Is there anybody else that would like to comment? Okay, not seeing any other comments, I will close the public hearing for the proposed budget amendment for our 2023-2024 fiscal year. Item number 7 on our agenda, that the council has 6 legislative items to consider as a council this evening, beginning with item 7.1, which is consideration of ordinance 412, amending titles 2, 3, 12, and 19 of the Cottonwood Heights Code of Ordinances, which has to do with the zoning text amendments that we just talked about. We discussed this earlier in our work session, and also had the public hearing for this. Any other comments or questions from the council?
I just have one, and that's I'm actually grateful that the council was willing to take out that dog boarding provision and have a bigger, broader discussion about home-based businesses, because that's going to impact our city tremendously over the next 5 to 10 years. So because that's been removed, I'm more supportive of changes. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Highland. Okay, at this point, I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance 412, amending titles 2, 3, 12, and 19 of the Cottonwood Heights Code of Ordinances.
I will motion to approve ordinance 412.
Second.
We have a motion to approve from Councilmember Burrell and a second from Councilmember Highland. Final questions, comments? Call for the vote. Councilmember Holton,
Yes.
Councilmember Highland,
Yes.
Councilmember Newell,
Yes.
Councilmember Burrell,
Yes.
and I will vote yes. Item 7.2, consideration of resolution 2024-21, approving a firework display contract with Vortex Productions for the 2024 Butlerville Days. We also had the opportunity to discuss this item earlier in our work session. Any other questions or comments from the council? I'll entertain a motion to approve resolution 2024-21, approving a firework display contract with Vortex Productions for the 2024 Butlerville Days.
Motion to approve resolution 2024-21.
I'll second.
A motion to approve from Councilmember Holton, a second from Councilmember Newell. Final questions, comments? Call for the vote. Councilmember Highland,
Yes.
Councilmember Newell,
Yes.
Councilmember Burrell,
Yes.
Councilmember Holton,
Yes.
and I will vote yes. Item 7.3, consideration of resolution 2024-22, approving a drone show performance contract with Open Sky Productions LLC for the 2024 Butlerville Days. We also discussed this earlier in our work session. Any final questions and comments from the council?
I would just like to make one comment, and that is that I made it last year at the same time. It's wonderful to have exciting performances. It would be my preference that we would choose either to do the drone or to do the fireworks. But I understand it's something that has been, now adopted. And so I just want to go on record that I have a lot of constituents who have problems with the fireworks. They don't like the way animals feel about it and the air pollution elements. So I just need to state that as my comment.
Thank you, Councilmember Burrell.
I'll make the motion to approve resolution 2024-22.
I'll second.
A motion to approve from Councilmember Newell and a second from Councilmember Holton. Any final questions, comments? Call for the vote. Councilmember Newell,
Yes.
Councilmember Burrell,
Yes.
Councilmember Holton,
Yes.
Councilmember Highland,
Yes.
and I will vote yes. Seven point four, consideration of resolution 2024-23, approving an event proposal contract with Custom Events, Inc. for the 2024 Butlerville Days. We also had the opportunity to discuss this item earlier in our work session. Any final questions or comments from the council? Tim, can I ask, is this related to the actual stage entertainment?
No, this isn't the stage entertainment. It's the other small minor activities on the site.
Okay. Great. Hearing nothing, hearing no comments, I'll call for, or I'll entertain a motion to approve resolution 2024-23, approving an event proposal contract with Custom Events, Inc. for the 2024 Butlerville Days.
I'll motion to approve resolution 2024-23 for event proposal.
I'll second that.
Motion to approve from Councilmember Highland and a second from Councilmember Holton. Final questions, comments? Call for the vote. Councilmember Burrell,
Yes.
Councilmember Holton,
Yes.
Councilmember Highland,
Yes.
Councilmember Newell,
Yes.
and I will vote yes. Item 7.5, consideration of resolution 2024-24, approving a consulting agreement with Kimberly Horn for SS4A grant application services. We also discussed this earlier in our work session. Any other questions or comments from the council?
I just quickly comment, appreciated Runar Bowman's questions and concerns. And this SS4A grant, they can be very large. We'll go for the minimum grant, which is 2.5 million. And it's rather shocking how 2.5 million sounds like a lot of money, but to make the improvements we need in the city, transportation is at a really high cost. So I'm appreciative that the council is supporting and advancing this effort to obtain. So far, not one municipality has been turned down. So I think that this $30,000 for a company to help us with this application is going to be money that will give a return on its investment. Because again, the federal government so far has not rejected a single municipality's grant application in the last 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Burrell. At this point, I'll entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2024-24, approving a consulting agreement with Kimberly Horn for SS4A grant application services.
I motion to approve resolution 2024-20.
I'll second.
A motion to approve from Councilmember Burrell and a second from Councilmember Newell. Final questions, comments? Call for the vote. Councilmember Holton,
Yes.
Councilmember Highland,
Yes.
Councilmember Newell,
Yes.
Councilmember Burrell.
Yes.
And I will vote yes. So the last item of business for this evening for our legislative action items is item 7.6, consideration of resolution 2024-25, encouraging Salt Lake County to impose the optional 0.2 sales and use tax to enhance transportation funding. Any other questions or comments from the council?
Again, my comment would be that while generally I'm very fiscally conservative and always concerned about higher taxes for our citizens, I have come to understand that transportation, again, is a really demanding, it's taking a toll on our all of us when our roadways are not properly maintained at the proper speeds, et cetera. We have continuing injuries and fatalities. And so I support this because I think all municipalities are suffering from the amount of miles of roadway in our sprawling suburbia of Salt Lake County. So I see this as something necessary.
I'd like to make a comment about that too, and that's that a sales tax isn't just borne, or that the burden is not borne by just the residents, but by the visitors who come here as well. And so they'll be contributing to the impact that they have on our roads. And like you, Councilmember Burrell, I'm always concerned in light of our general discussion today in the work session about, do we want to keep creeping up these taxes? But when it has this specific use and we do see such a high impact right now, and it's so expensive to maintain our roads, I'm willing to go forward with the resolution.
Thank you. At this point, I'll entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2024-25, encouraging Salt Lake County to impose the optional 0.2 sales and use tax to enhance transportation funding.
I will motion to approve resolution 2024-25.
I'll second.
We have a motion to approve from Councilmember Burrell and a second from Councilmember Highland. Final questions and comments? And I'll call for the vote. Councilmember Highland,
Yes.
Councilmember Newell,
Yes.
Councilmember Burrell,
Yes.
Councilmember Holton,
No.
and I will vote yes. The measure will pass 4-1. Okay, we do not have a consent calendar to approve for this evening, so at this point, I will entertain a motion to adjourn our business meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in